Alright everybody, welcome to Otaku History. This is where I, as your main otaku historian, will be telling a story from nerd history. None of you know what the topic is, and none of them know either, so this is going to be a fun adventure for all of us, except for me, I suppose.
We should probably introduce ourselves.
Yes, we are Zap Brannigan, Spaceship of Love. I'm Cody.
I'm the man himself, Zap.
I'm Tom.
We found him outside before the panel, so
They gave me a sandwich to be here.
it was straight peanut butter, nothing else.
Not a ranch sandwich?
No.
So, our story begins March 23rd, 2012. Julie Ehrman, as you can see up here, after leaving her job at IGN, founds Boxer 8 Incorporated and tries to gather funding for a new video game console.
Oh, okay. I think I know where this is going. I'm so happy.
The problem is, though, Miss Ehrman cannot find investors willing to support her.
You want to buy my crap?
She pitches this new game console as, quote, a new OS and ecosystem for the TV, but unfortunately can't get any bites. So, on July...
When I hear ecosystem for the TV, I think of like the Christmas fireplace. Except this would just be like a goldfish tank, but...
So, on July 10th, Julie Ehrman and Boxer 8 announces a Kickstarter to get funding for their new console, with a goal of $950,000. The name of the console is the OUYA.
Oh, I knew it!
Oh, okay, we gotta... Here we go. The OUYA. A new kind of video game console.
It looks like one of those terrible stocking stuffers you get someone where it's just a plant and a wood block. Like, I bought you a flower, it's not grown yet.
You pull the tab and add to the water, done.
So, pitched as a new kind of video game console, it aims to be accessible to indie developers and it advertises a low price of only $99. Along with, quote, all games free to play or at least free to try.
Please tell me they're going to tell us what OUYA stands for.
They do, and they also say what the name means.
Is it?
You'll see.
Is it as good as I'm hoping?
Probably worse. The controller on the Kickstarter was advertised as being, quote, the Stradivarius of controllers.
So it's extremely expensive, no one can play it except for top professionals, and you have to keep it in an environmentally closed case, otherwise it explodes.
Exactly.
Okay, before we go, can we please just like take some bets on what it's going to be?
Yes, I was thinking the same thing. Okay,
What, the controller?
No, the OUYA. Like,
The OUYA.
OUYA.
Okay, it is
OUYA.
OUYA. Do you want to take any bets on what it stands for?
I think we should each take a guess.
All right, each of you can guess. Go on.
OUYA, okay.
Think about it. Okay. Here. Let me finish describing how they pitch it. So, it is also advertised as being very hacker friendly, claiming that it would be easy to root and that rooting would not void its warranty. It is heavily pitched as being an open console. While it's not explicitly stated in the Kickstarter, it also becomes very widely popular as an emulation machine due to being so open. A major theme of the Kickstarter is revolution. It made backers feel like they're part of something big, a revolution of the game industry against the, quote, big three game console companies. So this is a new underdog going to fight against Nintendo, Microsoft, and Sony. Would you like to take a guess as to what OUYA stands for?
No, but I want to come up with my own acronym. Okay, so Open User Yamaha Adhesive.
Okay, Don, do you have
I
any
think
idea?
open users definitely on the right start. Or like open UI.
Open
you
UI.
assholes.
So, while the Kickstarter does not say what OUYA stands for, the first question in the Kickstarter's FAQ page does say how to pronounce it, and it is pronounced OUYA. The FAQ page also notes that it is an unpleasant word in Swahili. And so I looked up what this means, and it's the Swahili equivalent of calling someone a cunt. So not only did they know that and still chose to go with the name, they advertised it as the first fact on their FAQ page for the Kickstarter.
All right. Is it wrong to think that sounds like something we would do?
It does sound
literal joke.
So, the initial release date is set for March 2013, which is less than a year away.
Oh, bullshit.
So, this also means that any developers that want to create games for it have less than a year to do so.
I mean, Majora's Mask was made in, what, 8 months?
Fair.
Yeah, it should be easy.
So, the Kickstarter is wildly successful. It makes its funding raising goal in only 8 hours. At the time, this was the best any project had ever done on its first day. Let's zoom out here and go to the next one.
You're like a game industry guy, and
yes.
I know you've told me when game companies do Kickstarters, what they don't usually announce is that, like, in the background, because they're like, oh yeah, we will totally make this game if we raise $500,000. But what most people don't understand is that $500,000 is not enough to make a video game.
No.
Even when they hit those weird stretch goals of like Bloodstained hitting like 5 million or whatever, even that you're like. So usually there's another, like a publisher or somebody behind it who's also going to fund some money. Maybe like the kind of idea we tossed around one time was like, oh, if you make 500,000, we'll match that. Who was backing this?
This, as I established earlier, there was not initially any outside investors. This was purely nothing.
So
this was purely through Kickstarter, correct?
So they're trying to make an entire operating software, device itself, support for every game, make it open source in less than a year with like a 5% of the budget they need.
Yeah, pretty much. All right, exactly. So it's wildly successful, and fundraising just skyrockets for the Kickstarter. So Boxer 8 starts announcing new OUYA models. So here we have a special limited edition black model.
Comes free with spray paint can.
Yes. This is a Kickstarter exclusive color scheme. They also announce a package where you can get 2 controllers with it instead of 1, and a version where your name would be engraved on the console and controllers, so it is uniquely yours.
You can just get an edger and do that yourself.
You could, but...
Or you can donate an extra $500.
So despite the success of the Kickstarter, strangely, some people are unconvinced.
What?
So the listed specs and this 3D render lead some people to worry that the hardware that they're promising wouldn't actually be able to work or fit in the console.
Now you're fighting physics. Physics will always win.
Some people are also worried that with the promised hardware and the size promised of the console, that there wouldn't be adequate cooling. I
do remember hearing like people complaining it overheated just by like running.
So the Kickstarter does claim that they have a working prototype, but in the Kickstarter video, none is shown. And there's no actual proof that there is a working prototype that they claim to have.
Isn't this thing about the size of this pop can? Like
it's smaller, actually. About that, yeah.
No, that's just not going to work. You could maybe make like a Game Boy Advance work on that thing.
So on July 27th, the Kickstarter is still running. There's a news post debuting the controller. This is again a 3D render of the controller.
God, look how cheap it looks. It's a rendering. It looks cheap.
Is anyone in the audience colorblind by any chance? If you were, you'd notice all of the face buttons are circles of different colors, and thus you can't tell them apart if you're colorblind.
Like, at least the PlayStation used shapes. Shapes make sense.
Yes, so people immediately point this out, and so on the official OUYA Reddit, there is a poll held to decide what the face button should be changed to, and they are changed, of course, to OUYA, O-U-Y-A. What does
it stand for?
It is bottom. It starts at the bottom, going clockwise. So
why would you read from the bottom?
So
you're gonna look at it. You're gonna be like a Yahoo? What the hell is a Yahoo?
Also, what's funny is the A is right here where the PlayStation circle button is. which is not where the A is on Xbox 360 or Nintendo controllers.
That's where the A is on the. It's for Nintendo.
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay, never mind then.
That's why I would forever hate Microsoft, because I grew up with a Super Nintendo and all they did was swap the places. Playing Resident Evil 5 was the worst thing in my life because like push B, A, oh I'm dead.
So one other funny thing about this controller, the final design of it, is the home button here in the center.
Oh, that looks like a good.
Oh my God! Please tell me if you hit the center knobs too hard, you can hit the home button.
No, but the home button is a U, just like what one of the face buttons is.
Is it the same?
So it's very easy to.
So it's OUYA.
OUYA. So
this does not look like a comfortable design for a controller.
It looks like this. It does not look very comfortable at all, and we'll get to that when this is like just a 3D render.
But we're poking holes in a 3D render. It doesn't exist yet.
We aren't even past the render, and we're already mad.
So on August 9th, the Kickstarter campaign ends, earning a whopping $8.6 million, over 900% of its original funding goal.
Is that enough? As a gaming person in the industry, is that close to enough?
I'm going to tentatively say yes. I don't really know that much about the hardware costs of development, but I'm going to say it's possible.
Didn't they also say they were going to put with games on release too?
Yes, they did.
Is that enough to even get some games going?
Not for them to make any games. And a few days later, Boxer 8 Incorporated is rebranded as OUYA Incorporated. Also funny is there's not a blog post or official Kickstarter announcement for a month after it finishes. There's not even like a congratulations, we did it. It's just radio silence for a month after it ends.
I wonder if this is like, oh God. A month of them being like, what do we do? They show up to work, they go in a boardroom, they sit for 8 hours like this, and then they just go home until the reality finally sets in.
So over the next...
This look right here.
Over the next few months, OUYA information begins trickling out with official blog posts and news updates. This is the first photo of the circuit board released.
$9 million.
$9 million right here, and people already start raising eyebrows at it.
Is that bubble wrap around it?
It is, but that's just for the photo. This was an official blog photo, by the way. This wasn't one just that some random person took. One thing that I don't know anything about motherboards or circuitry, but apparently the way that these cooling fins are set up, there's so many of them that it would actually increase heat. Because the heat would just get trapped in it.
I also like that you have a cord.
Yeah, you have a central line above.
Yes, there is also a rubber cord
directly in front of the wires you're trying to keep cold.
Apparently, they're also facing a direction so that it would be just against the side of the machine.
Oh no, you need fins.
Yeah. However, this is really the only photo that we see for several months. So people are really worrying that the console is a scam and that a working prototype doesn't actually exist. However, at the end of December 2012, dev kits begin releasing. So the OUYA dev kits are these clear plastic models. They're very, very cheap plastic, but
yes.
they are advertised as just being the dev kit, so it doesn't matter, etc. The dev kits cost $700. That actually is cheap compared to a regular, to get a PlayStation dev kit is usually several $1,000s.
Yeah, but isn't a PlayStation dev kit more powerful than a regular PlayStation?
It is. Thank you for pointing that out, because in the Kickstarter, the OUYA was advertised as being very indie developer friendly, and they also advertised that any console can be used as a dev kit. So, charging $700 for this quote-unquote dev kit is basically just paying 7 times the regular price in order to get it a few months early.
And it looks ugly.
And it does look I like clear plastic hardware.
There's a difference between clear plastic and it looks like you got it off of the back of a truck because it was like a defect of the factory.
I think of
basically
the Game Boy, and it has that nice aesthetic to it. It looks deliberate and it's only clear where they want you to see the gizmos.
Yeah. Or if you get like the tinted clear plastic, that's got an air of class to it.
This looks like compressed paper bags or something.
Yeah.
Bags.
So dev kits actually do start getting sent out and do start arriving.
This is the point of the story where things start like improving for everyone, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So let's start with the first impressions of these dev kits.
There's just a quote on screen.
Oh, I love
the controllers randomly receive trigger inputs, not only messing with games, but
so it's a Tumblr console.
So it's triggered.
So not only does this mess with game controls, it also prevents the auto power off due to inactivity because it's just constantly randomly receiving inputs.
Okay, so
the batteries jostle loose from the controller very easily, often even from just setting the controller down on the table. This is my favorite.
You know what? The best part of that is that's not the first time that's happened. The Virtual Boy had the same problem.
You're right.
The battery pack was on the back of it, and that powered the whole thing. So you'd be like, I'm going to put my controller down, and the headset would just be like, I'm out.
Also funny is the home button, or sorry, not the home button, the power button on the console, which is this little dot right here.
One second. Where's the home button of the controller?
I think
it's right here. It's just
it's
a little.
Clear, so
it's just very difficult to see.
Clear plastic against clear plastic.
Yes, they are.
They have black ones right there.
So the power button on the console is meant to, when you just tap it, it puts the console in sleep mode, and when you hold it, it turns it off. Nice and easy.
No.
Except
It's not going to be easy.
Except when you tap it to put it in sleep mode,
It turns off.
it turns the HDMI port off.
What?
So the console is still on, but it looks like it's in sleep mode.
Did some programmer go, okay, this is too hard. Maybe they won't notice.
So developers also start.
Why is it even a function? It's attached to a button.
So to shed some light on why that's the case is the OUYA is basically a glorified Android phone.
Yeah.
It is a souped up Android device that is meant to run on the TV. And so it's using the power button like how the power button on your phone works. You tap it and it turns the screen off. And so you tap it and it turns the screen off, which is the HDMI port.
Oh my god, so they took like
No, they didn't.
Shortcut.
It is the guy going, oh god.
So
it went from this is basically a phone console to no, this is literally
a phone.
Literally a phone that you plug.
Screen.
So it is running on a Tegra 3 processor, which was up to date when the Kickstarter announced, but by the time the console would actually release would thus be a year out of date, just like how every year phones get replaced, etc. However, the
totally run Skyrim, I'm sure.
People began running benchmark tests on these dev consoles, and they were running worse than phones and tablets that also came with that exact same chip. So it was objectively worse than just plugging your phone into your TV.
Oh man.
The devs, speaking of, going back to our overheating problem, you'll notice that there's no vents visible here. That's
on
because
the bottom of it, right?
the vents are on the bottom of the console.
Oh my god.
Because hot air notoriously moves down.
That's just
You can also see here,
It's true, when I'm overheated, I need to catch my breath. I go like this.
the heat helps me cool down.
When I get lightheaded, I just recover faster. It's all good.
You can also see they actually did replace those terrible heating fins with an actual fan. The fan blows against the side of the console. It doesn't actually blow towards the vents.
There's no place for dust or anything to go. There's no flow to this entire device. It's
it's
just going to overheat
blows
instantly.
hot air into the
So the eagle-eyed
It's a hot air balloon so easily.
the eagle-eyed viewers in the audience might notice there's some slight vents right here. Those
were on accident.
Those were legitimately on accident, and the retail version does not have those.
So like the one smart thing that could have had an actual airflow
is an accident that was done in the production beta that they fixed.
Correct.
They fixed a good thing.
This makes sense.
So the controller, the Stradivarius of controllers, developers also started running joystick tests. So this is where you hook up the controller to a computer and you read to see what kind of inputs the analog sticks are giving. So for reference, here is what a test looks like on a PlayStation 3 controller. All the little red dots are where input is read. Here is the same test on a 360 controller. There's a whole lot of dots, whole lot of input. It can tell lots where you're moving it. Here's where the OUYA
I'm missing 4.
Here is the OUYA dev kits.
It's got 8 spots. I was close.
So I'm going to jump ahead a little bit here. So they promised that the dev kits were early versions and they're going to be updating the controller and fixing a lot of these problems. Here is what the retail joystick test is.
That's worse.
Yes, it is significantly worse.
It's so much cleaner.
You know what? You could actually argue that is a nice map of the world.
It is.
Like you can tell where certain continents are.
It's nice and flat. It's perfect.
Yeah.
So here's my favorite thing about the test version, the dev kit from the OUYA. So while creating games for the OUYA, you would need to mark your game as a test version. This is so that you can actually test purchases without getting charged credit card money. So
I like where this is going already.
However, when developers started submitting games, they didn't turn off this test flag. And so when games initially started being released, they were still marked as test and they could be purchased for free. There were no charges made. So OUYA, in order to fix this, just made it so that any game that is actually submitted to the store would ignore the test flag. Which makes sense. Okay, then it'll start actually...
Until you have any test game on there.
Exactly. Once you release a game, if you start working on an update for it, the OUYA store will still ignore the test flag. And OUYA did not tell any developers this, so developers started making test purchases on their updates, which were now being read as real purchases. And developers got charged hundreds of dollars for this, and were told that they were not going to be refunded.
You know the part that really hurts me most is that we're not even remotely associated with this, and you talking, both Dawn and I had the exact same reaction.
I was gonna make a joke, like, could you imagine typing up a paper or something like file saved, that'll be 25 cents. But as I started like thinking of it, I was like, oh man, we're actually heading that way.
So developers were angry and wanted to get in touch with OUYA's legal team.
There is no legal team, is there?
There is a legal team. Do either of you want to guess what the legal team's email is?
There is none.
Legal team.
OUYA!
Legal team.
So the email for the official OUYA legal team is
OUYA legal?
Better Call Saul at OUYA.tv. That is the official one, and it stayed that way for the rest of time. They never changed that. It was not legal at OUYA.tv. It was Better Call Saul at OUYA.tv.
I have an honest question for you right now.
Yes.
Why are we here? You could just be telling us straight to the audience, and it's entertaining enough.
I really want to see. Do we have Wi-Fi? I want to email them.
Well, I don't want to spoil it, but I'm going to say you probably won't be able to reach anything if you email that now.
Well, you know, because they're so successful.
Yeah, it's clear they're working on OUYA too.
Oh, funny you mention that, Don.
Oh no!
Oh no! What did you do?
So let's fast forward a little bit to February of 2013. Julie Ehrman, at this point, she's still head of OUYA.
She's laughing maniacally somewhere.
She's giving lots of interviews and doing lots of hype to try to build up hype for the console, because the release date was set to be March of this year.
I can picture that now. Hey, you'll never guess what these idiots spent $9 million on.
During one interview, she announces that the company will be releasing new $99 OUYAs every year.
Oh yeah, OUYA.
Just like how every year you get a new updated phone, every year you can get a new updated OUYA.
I love wasting money.
So she's also basically saying that everyone who just bought one now theirs is out of date. Yeah.
It's brand new and 2 years out of date.
Yep.
I'm starting to understand how you look right now. Is kind of how I'm feeling.
Because I'm feeling better on the inside, and I still look like crap on the outside. But now you're just sinking further into what I am.
Miss Ehrman also promises that the Kickstarter backer OUYAs will begin shipping on March 28th, and that the official...
That's March, 2028, right?
No, March 28th, 2013.
I'm going to bet it's closer to mine than that.
I'm going to go at least 2 more years.
And that the console will be available in retail stores on June 4th.
I don't trust this for some reason.
No,
For some reason, yeah. So March 28th, units supposedly do begin shipping out, according to the OUYA blog and Twitter and all this.
Yeah, they shipped out. Some employee stole like 30 of them, and now they're gone. So they've been shipped out somewhere.
And they also announced, that a steady flow of units will begin to ship over, quote, the next several weeks. So immediately they're like, in a few weeks you might have yours start shipping.
I can't help but picture that as like a mafia guy. Like, we'll start shipping yours in a couple weeks, pal.
Keep the payments coming, and maybe they'll somehow come out of the shop.
So on March 28th that night, they also host a OUYA unveiling party at the Game Developers Conference.
That's in a tent.
It is in a tent.
That is not in a building.
It's not, but details. They had lots of actual OUYAs there to play.
Can we join your conference?
No, I need to talk about this. I am an audiovisual tech. I am the guy they would hire to build all of those things.
Can you see things wrong with it already?
Oh, so many goddamn things. The lighting's not balanced. The lighting on the stage is awful. They've actually not balanced. Is that a stage? Is there even a stage?
No, it's a giant inflatable OUYA.
Yeah, I know. They did light up the inside, which is what makes it look cool. The towers are badly uniformed.
I can hear your blood pressure.
This is what I do for a living. This is bad.
It does look like a bouncy house. And you can see there's a person here for scale reference, so it is big enough to be a bouncy house.
They even didn't get the towers right. It's literally setting up a piece of metal and making it stand vertically.
Hilariously, people who attend this unveiling party,
blown away.
They can actually get OUYAs there. They were given free OUYAs. And so all the early Kickstarter backers have to wait, quote, several weeks, whereas people who show up here just get them for free.
Wait, what does it cost to get into this event?
I think you can get it if you have a GDC badge, but GDC costs several $100s, and you usually have to be an industry.
That's still cheaper than the $900 whatever dollars it is to get an OUYA.
Oh no, the actual retail OUYAs are only $99. And that's what all the Kickstarter backers mostly got.
So clearly what you need to do is you go in, you get you leave, you give your pass to somebody else, they go in, they get one. Now you've got $200 worth of OUYA.
Now you have 200 OUYAs, and you're like, what am I going to do with this guy?
And you're not done. See, then you got a third friend, you go in, you come back out, you get 3, and now you can practice juggling with trash.
So
please tell me at some point we get to look at the OUYA Kickstarter page.
I can get it up. I
am
scroll through
dying to know.
There actually isn't that many funny things on it, unfortunately.
I just want to know, like, when you're kickstarting a game, they give you
console. It's a full
console.
console.
But when you're doing a game, they give you incentives. Like, if you donate or if you pledge $100, you'll get like a picture of you, right? If you do 1,000, we'll name an enemy after you. But like, what are they gonna advertise with this? Like, if you pledge $10,000, you can put a new letter.
Oh no, the $10,000 donation tier, there was one. It was to have your name engraved on all of the early Kickstarter consoles that are sent out to everyone. There were only like a dozen of them. There was a limit to them. Most of them were bought by like companies like IGN and like news stations. One of them was Notch, the creator of Minecraft, which I just find funny because Notch is endlessly entertaining to me.
I can't imagine, but somewhere I really wanted like one troll to get in that spot. And like, what's your name? I've legally changed my name to Dix McKenzie. For 48 hours, I had Dix McKenzie.
You just had Dix on there. People are like, you just buy a box of Dix?
So now that OUYAs are actually out there in the wild, initial hands-on reports and even some reviews begin rolling in. The controller, surprise, surprise, is the first major problem.
Oh, so we haven't even gotten to the console.
No. Reviewers universally complain that the analog sticks catch on the front faceplates and that buttons stick underneath the front faceplates. So you push the buttons down and they'll go underneath the faceplate, and so you have to pry them out. I shouldn't have said that while you're drinking, I'm sorry.
It's fine, it's how turbo buttons work.
On the one hand, though, I try and think of like how it was the 3 times I saw my parents playing video games, and they do that whole like, if I push it harder, it'll go faster.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm just, I can't.
So the reason why this is such a problem is because the faceplates come off. This is where you put the batteries into the controller.
Oh my god, what?
Needless to say, because you take the faceplates off like this, they often don't fit or sit flush very properly. Often reviewers have universally mentioned that the controllers are uncomfortable and there's also inconsistent delays with the controller and even sticky analog sticks out of the box.
That's an impressive amount of failure.
Getting to the console itself, when you first boot it up, the very first screen you see is
Screen of death for Microsoft. Screen of death for Microsoft.
Is one to enter your credit card information. And you cannot get into the console without first doing so.
Wait. If you buy one used.
Yes. Oh, when the console first came out, you weren't actually able to change your credit card information. They did patch that, luckily.
So you're saying like for the first year, if my credit card expired or was stolen at that point, walked garbage.
Basically, needless to say, lots of backers who were excited about the whole open element, hackable element of this were really pissed at this because this was also like a year after Sony's big PlayStation hack. And so nobody was trusting anyone with their credit card information at this time, let alone this weird Kickstarter company that is...
Yeah, Sony, a multi-billion-dollar company, has problems with that, but these guys...
But it's okay, because you can just enter in just random fake credit card information and it'll accept it.
So not only do you have to enter credit card information, you don't have to enter anything that's accurate. You just... like 46AQ, a Klingon symbol.
Yeah, basically.
I mean, I would have gone for 80085.
The menu where you can view all of your downloaded games has no means of sorting, and it defaults from oldest to newest. So if you download a new game, you have to scroll through all of your old games.
Oh my god, this is great. It's like a graveyard. Like, didn't finish that one, didn't finish that one, didn't even start that.
No, because
a walk of shame is you're trying to get to your new game, you're avoiding eye contact.
Walk of shame for games you bought.
A graveyard is set up in a grid. This is a line. You have to scroll left to right to get to your newest game.
This is literally a horrible tour of every single horrible game.
Yes.
I'm sure it's not like you can't even hold the button down to like scroll. You probably like do it individually.
And then you're stuck under the controller.
This is another thing that eventually did get fixed, but I just found it so funny I had to mention it. This is one thing that for a very, very long time was not fixed, but there were no prices listed on the store page. Because remember, every game is free to try. So this could mean that every game has to have some kind of free element to it. This could be you download a free demo and then you have to pay to unlock the full game. This could be like a free-to-play game, like a mobile game, where it's free to play most of it, but you can purchase currency or something like that.
However, I feel that it's you download anything on this page, you're immediately charged on this credit card?
Well, the thing is, because there's no prices listed on the store, if you download a game and then try it, you have no idea how much it's going to ask you to pay for it until you eventually hit the paywall. So you could be willing to pay like $5 for a game and then it's $20. Oh, and remember how I mentioned that whole test flag shenanigan business?
Is it back? Is it back with a vengeance?
Oh, it is, because games that still had the test flag enabled, the purchase prompt was colored red. The same color red that the price was listed. So if you see here, it just says purchase confirmation, and you can't see how much it actually costs. So any game that went through that whole test flag shenanigans, you would have no idea how much it was going to cost you. You would just hit purchase or cancel and see how much you got charged on your credit card.
More and more of a gaming Schrodinger's box. Is it working? It's both until you turn it on.
I'm just thinking of like the rare time, like Windows 98 days, you get like the error box and it's just like done, yes, no. Which of these is going to delete my computer?
That's why you always hit no.
Alt F4.
And remember how we also mentioned that this is basically just a glorified Android phone?
Yeah.
Many of the settings menus are just default Android ones, like that you would see on your phone, including the ability to turn on airplane mode, which disables Bluetooth,
so you're
disconnecting your controller so you can't turn airplane mode off.
There's literally a button to make this a horrible cube.
Yes.
Of course they wouldn't add a physical connection because that's too logical.
You know, the best thing they could have done for that is they could have changed the icon from an airplane to a brick.
Wait mode.
They didn't even add like a single USB key somewhere in the box so you can add.
There is a USB port on the device, but you need like your own keyboard or something to plug into it if you want to not use the Bluetooth controller.
I picture plugging in a keyboard and just being like, yes, no.
Yes, your keyboard explodes.
The keyboard just disconnects. Like,
So, needless to say, the review scores are terrible. Website The Verge rates the console a 3.5 out of 10.
Wait a minute.
Could you imagine?
Wait, how did they get a 3.5?
I really, really hope someone like just rule of threes that same thing. Somebody's like, here's our rating, and it's a red text on a red background.
However, Kickstarter backers are still believers. Often, the Reddit, the OUYA subreddit usually is writing off these reviews as being overly critical. They hated it from the start. That the big three were paying off for bad reviews. The reviewers fear change, etc.
Sorry. Like, we had the budget; it was ready to go, and they saw it. Like, oh no, this is free damage.
There are actually some positive reviews coming out and some positive things being said in reviews.
I didn't cut myself.
But most of the positivity
didn't die.
Most of the positivity is about how experimentation-y the console is and how ambitious the project is, which I can get that.
The best reviews are like participation medals.
Basically.
Here's the part that really hurts me most about this. I know what they were going for. They were going for like, you can do it yourself, you can do this. And like, had they done this, like, you could have made it a bit bigger, you could have replaced parts in the inside, which all basically means this is a shitty PC.
So we're at April 5th now, and this is about a week after backer consoles have started getting shipped out, and the first ever backer-only Kickstarter update is released. Turns out the units have not started shipping because there have been various shipping delays due to holidays, both international and otherwise. So these fixed dates on the calendar blindsided them and caused delays in the shipping process.
What do you mean Christmas is in December?
So manufacturing was delayed 2 weeks. In the update, OUYA also says that they'll begin shipping the standard gray consoles with single controllers first, and then start shipping the backer-exclusive black versions, the versions with multiple controllers, and the versions with, like, your name etched into it.
This is the point when you can just go to a store and buy it, right?
No, not yet, not yet. However,
I wish they sent the double controller ones out first, just so when they got to the single ones, they're like, we ran out of controllers.
However, this does mean that the people who paid extra for the special editions during the Kickstarter are going to be waiting longer and getting theirs last.
Oh, wow.
On April 12th, a follow-up backer-only update is released. Needless to say, OUYA received a lot of backlash over the fact that they, A, are shipping out late, and B, are shipping the cheaper ones first rather than the special editions. So they want to try to assuage doubts and worries over whether or not things are actually being shipped out. So they release a graph to show people both how many units they've shipped and how many they intend to ship.
I was hoping you were going to say video.
Oh, man.
No.
And there goes James. He's carrying one.
So I would like to stress this is the official graph that was released in this update.
What?
This means nothing!
It looks like it, yes. Those of you who are paying attention noted that I said this was on April 12th, and it is marked as being past April 13th for the actual launches. So this is so ridiculously terrible that, needless to say, there are lots of memes created about this. Lots and lots of memes. At this point, backers begin demanding refunds because they are very pissed. OUYA support isn't very helpful, so they begin tweeting Julie Ehrman herself, and she responds to these tweets.
Is this gasoline on a garbage fire? Please tell me it's gasoline
Twitter.
on a garbage fire.
You know Twitter.
So she says that Kickstarter won't let them give refunds, so instead, just recharge your credit card. Just tell your credit card company to dispute it.
That makes them fraud. Right?
Yes, they are telling people to commit fraud. They also say that
your legal email is Better Call Saul.
Yes.
Realistically, if you explain this to a credit card company, they probably would believe you.
People who contact the customer service department are told that refunds are impossible. Ehrman also tweets out at people saying, quote, "You only need to wait a few more weeks." And this is already, I think, about 3 weeks after they initially were promised to be delivered. Other backers do begin getting shipping emails. However, they're often with the tracking info left blank.
Perfect!
So throughout April and May, OUYA releases several more backer updates with more helpful graphs.
Yes!
Oh, yeah!
I see we're getting a very clear and accurate representation of the history of this whole thing.
And there's more graphs. And more. And more. One thing that is not easily communicated with these slides is almost every single one of these was a different resolution. So they are not just editing the same picture, they are creating new pictures every time.
I feel so sorry for the summer intern who clearly had to deal with this.
And by May 24th...
I picture, like, they look at it and they're like, oh wow, this isn't really good. But yeah, we need to make it bigger. So he goes and actually makes it bigger instead of drawing a bigger line.
So by May 24th, they promised that, quote, all backer units have been shipped, including all of the limited edition black ones.
They hadn't even started production at that point, had they?
The update also admits that the engraved faceplates won't actually be shipping. since they take a little bit of extra time and they just want to ship out regular consoles first, and then they'll just like, here, you can get your actual console so you can play it, and then later we'll ship the engraved.
It comes with your own Dremel.
Yes.
Do it yourself.
Hope you got a steady hand.
They do say that they're, quote, aiming to have them in the mail within 2 to 3 weeks at the latest. End quote.
Right? 4 months? I'm thinking 4 or 5 months, maybe.
So about this time, all throughout this time, Julie Ehrman is doing lots of interviews, and all of them are really, really bad. I would love to go through all of them, but unfortunately we don't have nearly enough time. I will go over one where she says what the name stands for.
Yes!
Here we go. We've set it up.
Okay.
All right.
So yaks are assholes.
And this is entirely a quote. This is verbatim. Quote, the O in OUYA stands for openness. The U is for universal because it's built on the Android language. It's available for everyone. We really removed all barriers as it relates to creation.
That acronym just got way long.
And then the YA just sounded good and completed it.
Yeah.
So open, universal, YA.
Okay. I know that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard, but there's one part of me that's very happy. I got 25% of the name.
You did.
Right.
On May 9th, OUYA announced that it actually received an additional $15 million in funding from investors.
Who would invest at this point?
Well, like, this is a dumpster fire. We better fund it.
On this same day, they also announced that the brick and mortar release date will be delayed by 3 weeks.
Better fund some more.
You know how yesterday we were talking about, you've already dug a hole this deep, you might as well just start digging a couple feet further and start building a coffin while you're down there?
Yes, it's like you already dug your grave. Might as well drop the coffin too. This is why we're packing on your own dirt.
So, I'm going to preface this next image by saying don't Google this. So
That's a weird.
That is
on May 23rd, the official OUYA support Twitter tweets RedTube, the name of a porn website. And it is deleted within a few minutes.
A few minutes. Does that mean that person was sitting there being like, why is this the website?
What's wrong with Google? It looks different today. I'm still at work.
So,
I know the fact I saw expand there is making it funny. I don't know why.
On May 27th, some international OUYAs actually begin to arrive. They are marked as gifts worth $65.
That's illegal.
Yes, it is. Because they are marked as gift, that means that the backers who are picking them up internationally have to pay import fees on their OUYA when they pick them up. Some of them have been reported to be as high as $150. More than the console itself.
That tweet needs to be in like water.
On June 6th,
Every time I look at it, I giggle.
Stop. How much more destruction and gasoline are you going to pour on this fire?
we're about halfway through the document.
Oh my god!
June 6th.
Wait, stop. We're only halfway.
Okay, yeah. All right, we're going to skip this next bit then. All right, so June 11th, E3. OUYA does not get an E3 booth.
Why not?
Instead, OUYA sets up in the parking lot across from E3.
I was like in my head, like, oh, they're not in E3. I bet you they're in the parking lot, third level of the parking
They are set up out of a shipping container.
That's worse. worse. I thought it was a tent in my
I hope it's not even like the parking lot of Eatery. I hope it's like the parking lot of a Hooters or something.
No, it's gonna be like a hotel 2 doors down.
So they set up out. Actually, I'm going to break flow here. It's funny you mentioned the Hooters, Don.
What?
There is a Hooters. They tweeted this is Julie Ehrman here and OUYA staff with an OUYA shirt at the Hooters downtown,
Covering her Hooters. Brilliant.
So yeah, this is an official tweet. Promote your product with
That's the
with
official
Hooters.
tweet.
It's one of them. They made a lot. So this is the OUYA Park at E3.
It's not E3, it's the E3 Parkade.
It is several OUYA game stations set up. They're giving away free drinks. They're allowing people to play and buy OUYA consoles there.
Please buy our console.
They're also giving away beer koozies.
What the
Why does this man look like an octopus?
I thought he was holding a phone for a second. I was like, you're not even playing my own.
Oh yeah, and they go to Hooters. I didn't include this. All right, good. So a little bit into the first day of E3, a large truck parks in front of the OUYA station because they're in a parking lot.
And
So this blocks the view of the OUYA Park from the E3 convention hall. Or so OUYA states. You can actually see the E3 convention hall right there. So it is not actually blocking the view to
It's giving them a backdrop.
Wait, this is saying, oh man, it's too bad.
So
Parked here.
OUYA starts claiming that this is E3 trying to shut them down. That they start claiming that E3 bought the parking spaces in front of them purely to block
That's
view.
the wrong direction.
So in response to this vicious attack by E3,
yes.
OUYA puts up a giant banner advertising the OUYA Park.
That is not a giant banner.
It is not a giant banner.
I wonder what the park stands for this time.
Personal architect.
The arcade just sounded cool.
So after this banner is put up, someone calls the police on the OUYA.
What are they driving?
Those are the coolest police officers to deal with the situation.
I think the vehicles are funnier than
the concept.
What is that?
So OUYA tries to spin this as, again, E3 is trying to get them shut down. The police were merely just checking their permits to make sure they were allowed to park there, and they were. They actually, surprisingly, did have permits. They also gave the officers OUYA shirts and tweeted these fun pictures of the officers supporting the OUYA.
They didn't even get off their damn face.
No, they didn't.
I don't want to touch the ground you're touching.
I mean, to be fair, if you were on that thing, would you want to get off?
Oh, hell no. That's not what you
So OUYA is really pushing the whole E3 is against us, the big three are trying to shut us down.
So this is where any one of those big three sends up the smallest bit of support, it crushes them.
No, that doesn't actually happen. However, a man and his 2 children were apparently denied entrance to E3 because they were wearing OUYA shirts. Shocking, except you'll notice that neither of the children have E3 badges. And that is the real reason why they were not allowed in. But that's not going to let OUYA to stop it from spinning this in their favor.
They walked up, and as soon as they saw our shirts, they ripped our badges off.
OUYA is pushing the hashtags, hashtag OUYA Park and hashtag Occupy E3. Angry backers who have still not had their consoles shipped begin using these E3 hashtags to try to get OUYA's attention because customer support is useless. And I would like to note that this means there are many Kickstarter backers who have not even received confirmation that their units are shipping, and people can buy OUYAs at E3. In the parking lot of E3. Yep. So June 20th, units actually begin arriving in brick and mortar stores. Employees begin posting early pictures. June 21st, German customs notice that there's no CE logo on the controllers. You know, on the back of controllers where it has the CE logo?
Oh God, I haven't seen one of those forever.
Yeah, that is for to basically showing that it's approved European Union standards and all that. So this means that German offices are being told to withhold OUYA consoles.
No, legally they would have to.
Yeah, exactly. No, yeah, exactly. They think it's unsafe.
I mean, they are at this point. They are just looking out for the safety and the sanity of their.
I think sanity more than mental health of everyone involved at this point is actually a question.
It turns out that the CE logos are on the underside of the controller faceplates.
I may not be a marketing director or a public relations expert, but I am literally friends with those people, and they've all stated verbatim, I could do their jobs if need be.
You know who else isn't a public relations expert? Julie Ehrman, CEO of OUYA. And when people tweet to her asking about the German CE fiasco, she replies, quote, "It's fixed," end quote.
That's
with no
not an
further elaboration.
I was going to jokingly blurt out, "LOL, too bad." That's about the same level for
Basically.
Situation has occurred. We are talking with the German officials currently to resolve the situation. It is a simple
June 25th.
It will be resolved.
June 25th, the console is actually released.
How many times has it been released now?
No, this is the first time it's actually released in brick and mortar. You can go buy it at Walmart or Target or GameStop. Ehrman...
You did the Kickstarter, you still don't have yours!
That's true! Julie Ehrman makes the final Kickstarter update, promising to help out backers still without consoles, because there's still many who don't have any.
Wait. I'm just doing the math here. You said when this was first released earlier in the year that it was already about a year or two behind.
Yes, that is correct. Yes.
This is now the end of the year, so it's now at least 3 years behind in technology.
More or less.
Possibly 4.
So on release day, Amazon actually sells out in a few hours.
Who would buy this?
Well, that's the thing. People are curious about that. And shortly after, a lot of Kickstarter backers begin receiving shipping notifications and are told that their shipping units might be fulfilled through Amazon, leading many people to believe that OUYA themselves bought out all the Amazon copies to generate hype about it being sold out and to fulfill Kickstarter backers that they were unable to keep up to date with.
Who exactly is getting the money in that situation?
No, Amazon's getting some, and OUYA's losing a lot.
So instead of shipping them, it's cheaper to pay Amazon to ship it for you?
But you have to give it to them first.
Needless to say, Amazon gets back in stock within a couple days and never once ever sells out ever again.
Okay, what about right now?
We'll get to right now later.
No! I hope you bought them.
So some people buying retail copies actually find that they contain the Kickstarter backer inserts. And vice versa also applies. So some Kickstarter units are being sent to brick and mortar stores, and some Kickstarter backers are getting just the regular retail
These are the
units.
ones with engravings on them, right?
Some of them.
Could you imagine if you were the one guy who bought it from a store and you opened it up and it's like, "Dave, how do you do
Like, I am freaking out right now, man.
Needless to say, reports of consoles and controllers are stopped working within a week.
Disintegrating.
Within a week?
Yes, within a week.
Please tell me they dissolve in water too.
The bad ventilation means that consoles are overheating to the point of shutting down and refusing to turn back on until they cool off.
Yeah, they melt.
There are some reports of consoles overheating while in sleep mode and giving off odd smells when overheating.
That's because they turned off the HDMI, isn't it?
No, they actually did fix that. They actually did make a sleep mode.
Then they messed it up more somehow.
That's pretty sure that's like the thermal paste.
They're melting the plastic for coating.
There's lots of reports of horrible Wi-Fi issues, including dropped connections, forgetting networks. Some consoles were just refused to download games, meaning that they are literally pointless. The faceplates dig into the analog sticks after a mere few days of use.
Rip it off. Because
you're gonna push up and the stick's gonna be like, whoop.
And I will clarify, buttons are still sticking under the faceplate.
Oh, thank God.
I need some consistency in the universe to put my mind at ease.
I remember, like, back when this was a thing, I remember seeing people post online just being like, "Oh yeah, I just want to get the controller. It just seems like a good USB controller."
Needless to say, OUYA support is very unhelpful and unresponsive, sometimes taking weeks or months to provide help. I've made a small compilation of some fun support responses. Here, why in heaven's name is my OUYA on its way to the USA, not to me in Germany? The good questions, I am not too sure.
Is
that his German?
Yes, good questions.
It's a good question.
Here's another one. Anyone else having problems with their OUYA Bluetooth controller? It keeps dropping connection for me every 3 to 5 minutes. OUYA tech support, that should not be happening.
He's like threatening the controller. Like, you hear me, right?
And a lot of people begin thinking that the OUYA support Twitter is actually a bot, because this completely unrelated tweet about some Back to the Future thing gets replied with, "You can reply to us with your support ticket number. We can look into it for you. Thanks and sorry for the delay." This includes no at OUYA, no OUYA hashtags. It is completely unrelated to the OUYA whatsoever.
Okay, so it's either incompetence, a bot, or an incompetent bot.
Probably, yeah.
Thank you, sir, beef.
Some backers still don't have their tracking numbers for their orders. Some are given tracking numbers for other people's orders.
Good.
Support is swamped with the release, so they're even more unhelpful and unresponsive than usual. The brown special editions do actually begin arriving.
Brown is
brown?
Yeah, oh yeah, by the way, it wasn't black, it was brown.
Shit brown.
Shit brown. The people who ordered
what you purchased.
the people who ordered 2 controllers are still only getting 1, and
a coupon to go buy another one at Walmart.
no, they are told that a second controller will be shipped later.
Oh, I believe that.
The engraved faceplates still have not been sent out yet, and are being told that they will be shipped later. Above all else, the main complaint with the release is a lack of games. There is a consensus that the few good games are pretty fun, and that local multiplayer party games are actually really fun and actually a decent draw for the console.
When you get a controller.
If it works, it also makes a fairly good emulation machine. So there are some upsides.
Yeah, but a Raspberry Pi is like $30.
However, many devs begin reporting download numbers in the mere hundreds for their games. Sales numbers are often in the double digits, if not lower.
That means at least 30 people bought this console.
Julie Ehrman reports that sales are, quote, better than we expected.
We actually have something.
Yet concedes in the same interview that 73% of owners have yet to make a purchase. So 3/4 of the people buying the console never buy a game.
That's over 1/4 though.
One hilarious thing to tie all this sales information together is developers need to get $200 in total sales after OUYA takes their cut in order to actually get paid. It's like a minimum amount so that they're not paying tons of like $5 things. This means that many developers never ever get paid for their games because they never make $200.
You can just feel out there too, just like the
needless to say, over the next couple months, OUYA kind of begins trying to restore hype and improve sales for the console.
Yes.
Why would you keep trying?
For our entertainment.
Yes, at San Diego Comic-Con, they run a small advertising campaign.
In which bathroom?
Via Urinal Cake.
Oh my god!
Oh my god. Shut up.
Because
I legitimately had no idea.
Because, see, OUYA, they're really leaning heavily on the free games aspect. Their motto is OUYA, free the games. So their whole advertising stint is about how, tired of paying $60 and then the game being bad? Well, here on our console, you can play every game for free to make sure you never get burned by a bad game. So they think that this is the best way to advertise that.
I mean, it is pretty clever, but at the same time, what are you advertising?
It's so alienating half of their entire life. When is a woman going to see this?
Oh my god, it's like in the what do you call it, the little compartments for womanly needs that are in there in the bathrooms, just like, what is that?
They also release a commercial.
Oh yes.
Oh god. No.
I'm not going to play the commercial because honestly it is probably not appropriate for the age range of this panel.
Wait, like an official commercial, and it's not appropriate for...
Yes, I did pull screenshots. It was never actually aired on TV, and I'll get to that. I gotta zoom out to actually move to the next image. So this is the commercial. It features a
sad man in his underwear.
A sad man in his underwear.
Hey, that's me.
Complaining that about, I spent $60 on a bad game. I could have bought food. And he is so upset about the fact that he
eats it. He eats the game.
No, the opposite. He begins puking. He is so upset he begins vomiting until the room is up to his ankles in vomit. And then he pulls out his spinal cord through his tongue and beats himself to death with it. At which point then it says, never pay for a bad game again. OUYA, hundreds of games free to try. And then it ends with him come on, go to the next image.
A corpse in a pile of his own vomit, I assume.
A corpse in the pile of his own vomit saying OUYA. And that's the end of the commercial. Needless to say, the commercial gets pulled from YouTube in less than an hour due to bad reception. OUYA tries to write this off afterwards as just an experiment.
No, that's a cartoon. It took a lot of money and effort to make.
Yes, it did. Also trying to get people hyped up, they begin trying to tweet out about big games that they are getting along with onto the OUYA.
Skyrim. Skyrim runs on anything.
It actually not the OUYA. At the time there was an indie game called That Dragon Cancer. People probably have heard of it. It's about it's a true story of a dad whose son dies of cancer. And so That Dragon Cancer was announced to start off as an OUYA exclusive.
After watching a commercial of a guy puking up his skeleton.
And so the official Twitter from OUYA decides to advertise this.
Oh, yes.
By saying, quote, the powerfully moving That Dragon Cancer is now a OUYA exclusive. Get some!
Your son died of cancer. Get some.
I honestly think that the RedTube comment was probably less
less offensive, at least. Yes. At least you can be like, some guy's watching porn. That's embarrassing, but that's a human thing to do.
This is just like one guy. We apologize for the pull-off market. That one went through a team.
So now, July 18th, OUYA announces the Free the Games Fund. This is a fundraising thing that will run for the rest of the year. OUYA announces that any indie game with a successful Kickstarter with a minimum of $50,000, OUYA will match however much they earn dollar to dollar, up to a maximum of $1 million. So this means that...
Wait, that means people have to buy their game.
Well, this means that if you made a game and kickstart it for $100,000, OUYA will give you $100,000 to make that game as long as it stays exclusive on OUYA for 6 months.
That is not a good business strategy at all.
Actually, that's what a lot of video game consoles do.
No, that's fine.
The time limit is only 6 months.
Well, no, it just means it has to remain exclusive to the OUYA for 6 months after it releases.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
it's only 6 months. That's still not enough.
Well, see, you're not thinking about this right. you need to think about this from an exploitative
I thought you were
mindset.
going to say think of it from an
This is a great
So, the first 2 games funded under the Free the Games Fund begin drawing suspicion, because both titles had a fairly small number of Kickstarter backers, each pledging very large amounts of money. Many of these backers had never pledged money to any other Kickstarter projects and had duplicate names and avatars. One project had a backer whose identity appeared to be taken from a missing persons case. And other backers had the same IP address as the developer's office. So they are funding their own Kickstarter so that OUYA will just give them money.
And it costs them literally nothing.
Exactly, it's free money. OUYA shows little opposition to these projects, in some cases actively supporting and promoting them, not realizing what is happening.
I don't know if this is better or worse than the one that Ron did. And that got pretty dark.
Needless to say, this makes a lot of legitimate indie developers really mad, and they begin pulling their games off the OUYA store. However, it's because of this exploitativeness, OUYA decides to lower the threshold for the Free the Games Fund to only $10,000, and says that devs can make a PC version to release along with the OUYA version. So, also, a fun fact with this Free the Games Fund, no games actually got successfully funded through it. The 2 projects that reached the funding were both shut down by Kickstarter for being obvious scams, and every other game that was in the running for it never reached their Kickstarter goal.
So the more I stare at this tweet, have you guys ever tweeted something and then felt really embarrassed about it afterwards? I'm never gonna feel embarrassed about anything I tweet ever again. I might feel bad at first, I'll think of this, but I'm still good.
No, you could literally tweet, "Go get cancer," and it's still not as bad because this one also is good.
All right, so August 12th, backers finally start receiving those extra controllers that they ordered.
It actually happened?
This isn't...
The butt.
Yeah,
The butt is, sometimes
They explode.
these backers did not order extra controllers. Others got an entirely new second console with the controller, and were emailed by OUYA asking them to kindly please send the console back. We didn't mean to send it to you.
Now, I'm just going to go on a limb here. I'm also going to say in that email, I bet you they said, "We're not paying shipping."
So needless to say, efforts are failing to save the OUYA. But OUYA isn't going to give up. They begin offering celebrities free OUYAs over Twitter, including Seth Green and some wrestling people who I wasn't familiar with.
You would just rip that thing apart.
OUYA begins including $10 gift cards in OUYA boxes. So, gift cards for the OUYA store.
It's for the Hooters downtown. They have our shirts.
Oh, and don't think that I or OUYA or Miss Ermin forgot about the promises of OUYA 2, because in October, OUYA confirms that they will be releasing an OUYA 2 in 2014.
This was really that long ago.
She gives no details on what the console will be like, though.
This one's also a dishwasher. We're trying to branch out.
They do release limited edition versions, like a white OUYA.
It looks like an unfinished render.
It looks like someone took a game. It looks like someone tried to make a GameCube controller out of Play-Doh.
It's like the little brother problem. Yeah, you want to play? Here's the controller. The buttons don't press. It's working.
There's also a black edition. Both the white and black ones come with extra storage. Some people believe that this might actually be the OUYA 2 she was talking about. They also start accepting Bitcoin.
This was on a dangerous slope, and now they're like, no, quick, the triple black diamond, it's safer over there.
And apparently the $10 gift card wasn't enough, because base OUYA drops in price to $85 with a $25 gift card.
What?
We can't make this funny. This is just getting really depressing.
In November 2013, it gets more depressing as exclusivity agreements with OUYA begin expiring. So this means that many of the console's best exclusive games begin announcing that they'll be releasing on other platforms.
You know, consoles they can actually play?
Exactly. Towerfall, the most popular game on the console, announces a PS4 version, and basically everyone is like, yeah, this is the last nail in the OUYA coffin.
But no.
OUYA's gonna keep on trying.
OUYA is going to keep...
It's just damn it, stop making me correct!
OUYA is going to keep on trying, except for Mufi Gadiali, who I'm probably butchering the name of. Mufi Gadiali.
How do you spell that?
He's one of the co-founders of OUYA, and he leaves the company January 15th, 2014.
Mufi made an Ookie. Get out of here.
So January 19th, 2014 is the last example I could find of someone finally getting their Kickstarter order.
A year later.
And this is actually when they finally start sending out the engraved consoles. So they finally did eventually send them out.
Well, yeah, I imagine that one guy is just like, my arm hurts so much right now. These aren't even letters anymore.
There are so many Daves. Why are there so many Daves?
Needless to say, OUYA is pretty desperate here and is trying many last-ditch efforts to try to stay afloat.
Please, please tell me they did like a 90s rap commercial in a desperate attempt.
Oh, I wish. They did have more commercials, but they were all just boring, like, OUYA, come play our games, etc.
Nothing as exciting as a man vomiting his own spine.
No. But throughout early to mid 2014, they announced various sales. They try to open the console up by offering a game streaming service similar to like OnLive or something like that. As far as I could tell, this OUYA game
work with good hardware.
As far as I could tell, this game streaming service never even got off the ground or was ever made.
So now we have OUYA 3 coming out, right? Stadia.
They also offer to bring the OUYA store to other devices, so like your phone and stuff like that. So you literally no longer need an OUYA console. You can just get the OUYA store on your phone.
Is that still an app on there?
I don't know. Somebody should check.
Don't touch it. If you touch it, maybe it'll just...
Spoilers, it's probably not.
My phone turned into a block.
OUYA also announces a subscription service.
Oh, good.
So you can pay a yearly amount to OUYA and then get to play all your games for free.
I honestly expected you to just be like, so you can pay a yearly amount to OUYA.
They also release various tutorials on how to make games to try to encourage more indie developers. They also team up with the very successful Reading Rainbow Kickstarter.
What?
And one of the Reading Rainbow Kickstarter reward tiers was a special blue OUYA signed by the original host of Reading Rainbow.
Oh, it's a blueya.
It's a blueya. We'll fast forward to March 2014.
I still hate the button. Why did they start at 6 o'clock?
OUYA.
Walking there.
March 2014, a full year after the original backer stuff, this is the next Game Developers Conference. There they announced that there's no more free-to-try needed for their games in the store. So one of the major selling points has now been removed.
Oh, thank goodness.
Now we focus on the hardware and the game.
Yep, this completely goes against all of the initial promises and ethos of the console. The reasoning being that many indie developers claimed that this arbitrary restriction was insanely restricting on them because having to create a demo often doesn't work for every game and requires them to put in extra effort. And it's either that or they have to do some kind of free-to-play payment scheme, which often doesn't work for every game. So basically it was just a giant thing discouraging developers from ever developing from the game for the console in the first place. The few remaining faithful fans, and yes, there actually were remaining faithful fans, mostly on the OUYA subreddit, basically have completely lost their goddamn minds the free to try restriction has been removed.
Nerds.
I would love to talk to one of these people.
Pretty much everyone considers the console dead at this point. However,
Jeremy Goldstein.
fun fact, April 13th, 2014 was the last example I could find of someone complaining that they still had not gotten their Kickstarter console shipped yet. Over a year after it was initially promised.
That poor soul.
Just send out coupons. Just go pick them up in stores at that point. It's like completely abandoned the hope of doing
I don't think stores had them anymore.
Yeah.
They were probably like,
on September 2nd, OUYA begins talks with companies about acquisition. The end times draw near, and by December of 2014, the official OUYA site stopped selling consoles. But there's good news. Good news.
What?
In January of 2015, OUYA gets $10 million of funding from Alibaba in order to help incorporate OUYA technology into Alibaba's set-top box. As in AliExpress. I have no idea where this money went. OUYA literally did nothing with it, and I have no idea why they were given the money in the first place. I'm marginally convinced it had to do with money laundering.
Yeah. I mean, when you said Alibaba, my first instinct was the.
If you have a dying company, you don't give it money. You withdraw everything you can out of it. Start stealing copper wire out of the wall.
Just that email for Nigerian prince.
So, April 2015, 3 months after this $10 million, OUYA announces they are trying to sell the company, unable to renegotiate their debt. On July 27th...
I'm forgetting... What?
On July 27th, Razer acquires OUYA for $12 million.
Who just, keeps throwing money at this company?
So they received $10 million
and then immediately sold the company.
for $12 million.
Yes. And so... new OUYA hardware production is permanently discontinued. OUYA plans to merge the OUYA software library with their current Forge microconsole ecosystem. But they do promise that the OUYA would live on as their primary Android-based TV console.
Died within 6 months, didn't it?
No, surprisingly. At this point, also, Julie Ehrman steps down as CEO on the...
I got $22 million fresh. I'm out.
Exactly. For those of you curious, she is currently working as the president of media for Playboy.
What?
No! This entire thing is media!
But I mean, all she needs to do is tweet RedTube and she's good, right?
No, that's their primary competition!
Tweet RedTube. Oh crap, delete!
On May 21st of this year, 2019, Razer announces that OUYA online accounts and services will be discontinued. Any apps requiring the user to sign in or that require an internet connection will become unplayable, and new games will be unable to be downloaded.
So now it is a brick.
And sure enough, on June 25th, less than a month ago, the OUYA servers went down and the OUYA is finally laid to rest. The final count of games was 1,250, and the games have finally been freed.
And one guy is still waiting for his Kickstarter.
I assume there were still quite a lot of people still waiting, but I think at some point they all just kind of gave up on trying to get it.
So it's like 10 years from now. Hey, Grandpa, something came for you in the mail. Just...
Opens it, burn it! Burn it!
Pure anger, dies of a heart attack.
Else's name on it.
Oh my god, Dix McKenzie! Yes!